The Passover crowds were thinning. Thousands of pilgrims were pouring out of the gates of Jerusalem, returning to their homes across Judea and Galilee. The roads were thick with families, filled with laughter, song, and the lingering energy of the festival. Jesus was 12 years old. By the reckoning of the day, he was no longer a small child kept constantly at arm's reach, but he wasn't quite a man either. He was simply somewhere in the middle, surrounded by cousins and familiar faces from Nazareth. Joseph walked ahead with the men, while Mary stayed among the women and children in the middle of the caravan. Because the groups were so large and interconnected, Joseph assumed Jesus was with Mary, while Mary assumed he joined the men at the front. They were wrapped up in the warmth of a good feast and the deeply familiar rhythms of their community. That absolute, comforting ordinariness perfectly masked the reality that they were responsible for the Son of God. The illusion of safety shattered at nightfall. When the caravan stopped to make camp, the fires were lit, the families merged, and the truth became immediately obvious. Jesus was nowhere to be found. Mary moved through the camp, walking quickly at first, then running. She stopped at every fire, pressing into every family group, asking neighbors for Joseph's son. Every single shake of a head sent the fear deeper. A rural caravan is a tight, predictable environment. Jerusalem, 20 miles behind them, was the exact opposite. During Passover, the city was swollen with tens of thousands of foreign strangers, heavily armed Roman soldiers, and aggressive merchants. It was a terrifying place for a boy to be alone. Mary and Joseph looked at each other across the firelight. Earthly logic and perfectly normal parenting assumptions had utterly failed to keep track of the divine. They walked the 20 miles back in near silence, their minds rehearsing every terrible possibility. They re-entered the massive city gates just as the sun was rising. For the first 2 days, they exhausted themselves sweeping the marketplace district. They stopped every vendor and water carrier, pressing through the noise and livestock, desperately looking for a familiar face in an ocean of pilgrims. As the hours dragged on, Mary wrestled with a severe cognitive dissonance. She held the holy memories of angelic visits and prophetic promises, yet that knowledge offered zero protection against a mother's agonizing, very human terror for her vulnerable child. They were searching the alleys, the wells, and the marketplaces, the places a lost child might seek shelter. They were scouring the city for a missing carpenter's son, unaware that the boy they were looking for had already found the one place he truly belonged. By the third day, desperation forced a change in strategy. Joseph suggested they stop looking in the streets, walk up the massive steps, and check the temple courts. They finally found him. He wasn't cowering in a corner, and he certainly wasn't frightened. He was sitting calmly among the most learned, gray-bearded scholars in Israel. These lifetime scholars were not humoring a precocious kid. They were listening to him with absolute attention, stroking their beards, genuinely astonished by his profound understanding. Mary crossed the courtyard. 3 days of sleepless, blinding fear broke her voice. She demanded to know why he had treated them this way, telling him how much distress he had caused his father and her. When he looked at her, there was no guilt. He simply asked, "Why were you looking for me? Did you not know that I must be in my father's house?" In that moment, the child they had raised identified himself with a mission that began long before Nazareth. He wasn't a lost boy. He was an agent acting with clear purpose, prioritizing a father they had not yet fully considered. And yet he stood up and went home with them. He returned to the quiet hills of Nazareth, yielding to them with absolute, unquestioning obedience. The exact same boy who had left the intellectual elite of Jerusalem speechless now washed his face in the morning, hauled water, and quietly learned to work wood with Joseph's tools. Mary watched all of this. She took every strange, holy contrast and treasured it carefully in her heart, knowing she was raising a son on a trajectory she could never control. His submission to earthly parents was a veil. It was a temporary, intentional pause in a massive, preordained mission that had been running since the beginning. Decades later, Mary would find herself standing outside the walls of Jerusalem once again, this time looking up at a Roman cross. Standing in the shadow of the cross, the words from the temple court carry a different weight. The boy who spoke of his father's business was now finishing it, and the distance between the teacher's chair and the Roman wood was shorter than anyone had realized. If you are looking at his life today, you have to ask yourself a hard question. Are you currently searching for him in your own logical, comfortable places? The question he posed to Mary in the temple is the exact same question he poses to you right now. Did you not know? His priorities rarely align with human plans, and his work might call you to a place you never expected or wanted to go. To actually encounter him, you have to abandon your expectations. You have to stop looking for the version of him that makes sense to you and start looking exactly where the Father is working.